We're lucky enough to live in a community that has great resources for dealing with autism. Pathfinders for Autism is a state organization, and it's dedicated to improving the lives of people with autism. We have a village here in Baltimore, and Rebecca Rienzi is the executive director of Pathfinders for Autism. Thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you for having me.
We both looked at each other at one point, had tears in our eyes. It's really such an emotional thing to see communities come together, but that's sort of why Pathfinders exists.
Absolutely. We were founded by parents of children with autism who wanted to find a path for their children and help be able to locate resources in the community more easily, because at the time, 10 years ago when we started, finding those answers was difficult, and so our founding board wanted to blaze that path for other families to make it easier.
Have we come a long way in the past 10 years?
We absolutely have. I mean, there's a tremendous amount more resources as far as service providers in the state and throughout the country. We've learned a tremendous amount about autism and the types of therapies that can assist and help improve the outcomes for an individual. There's still a long way to go. We still don't know the cause. We still don't have a cure. But there's community is coming together to make that path as easy as possible for families and the individual.
What I really like, too, is that you guys deal with the individual who's dealing with autism and learning how to live with it, but also for the parents and the siblings. It's tough on them, too.
Absolutely. The whole family is affected, and not always just the immediate family, the grandparents, the aunts and uncles, the community, classmates. Everyone is affected by that individual, and like anyone in life, we all come together, we all impact each other in school, at work, and that individual brings gifts and brings challenges like we all do to a situation.
So for the family that is dealing with autism, what do you think is the most important thing for them to know?
In regards to adulthood, or just
yes, getting into adulthood, how do you prepare for something like that?
Sure. Well, it's a scary time, and at Pathfinders, because we do have a helpline, we get that call quite a bit. I think it's important for families to realize, particularly when their child is young, that the services that they are getting in the schools through the school system, those entitled services, end at age 21, or end when their child leaves the school system, which is between the ages of 18 and 21. And then they enter the world of eligibility and waiting list as far as public services are concerned. But they need to know what those public services are, and primarily in Maryland there are two agencies they can go to for assistance, that being the Division of Rehabilitative Services and the Developmental Disabilities Administration. They both offer community support services. Division of Rehabilitative Services offering employment training and support, but that program is 18 months long, and then after you have completed that, you are turned back out into the community with no additional support. And there's a waiting list for that. Also, DDA services, Developmental Disabilities Administration services, they are community support services, again, day program, employment, residential. There's a 19,000 person waiting list for those, for those programs. So families need to know that those public programs are not waiting for their child. They need to have other plans in place. They need to think about special needs trusts and planning as far as who might long-term help to care for an individual if that person does need support through their whole life. They also need to get creative and think outside the box, and lots of families are doing that.
Sort of like that map that we just saw. That was great.
Absolutely. Families are, there's parent groups that are coming together and starting service organizations so that their children and other children in the community have a place to go when they're in adulthood with the appropriate supports. And they need to know that, the community at large needs to know that an individual with autism can be a productive member of society. They have the right to live a happy, productive life, and so opportunities for where they can contribute to the community, whether it be through volunteer service or paid employment, should be in place for them. And oftentimes with modest supports in place, they can be very productive tax-paying citizens. And so when looking at funding public services, that should be considered, that we're not warehousing our individuals with developmental disabilities. We should not be doing that. We have moved very far away from that mentality, and now we need to put the supports in place so that those individuals can contribute.
All right, please give everybody your website.
Our website is www.pathfindersforautism.org.
Okay, and Rebecca Rienzi is the executive director there. Thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you for having us.
All right, well, we appreciate you spending the time here and braving the weather. And we do want to remind you, we want your 2 cents on today's hot topic. On our Facebook fan page, we posted the following question about this story. Do you believe autism services should be continued beyond the age of 21. And this is what we're hearing this morning. Ace writes in, yes, it should. Autism is a lifelong thing and services should be continued. We want to know what you think. We want your 2 cents on today's hot topic. You can read more about this story and weigh in. Just log on to our WMAR Facebook fan page and leave your comments. We'll share some of those comments throughout this morning's news.